Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Just Daf It. Today we're doing Nazir Daf Zion, Nazir number 7. Great share for you today. We'll start from the Mishnah on Zion and Aleph, the top of the page. Amar Harini Nazir Achas Kedola Harini Nazir Achas Kedan. He says, I'm taking on myself one term of Nazirus, a big one, or a small term of Nazirus. I feel mikan v'atzofa olam. It means says I'm taking Nazirus from now until the end of the world. Nazir shloshim yom. He doesn't have to take Nazirus for the rest of his life, only for 30 days. The explanation here being is that I'm going to read you what the Mafarish or Rashi says over here. There's no such thing as a Nazirus less than 30 days. Like we had the previous mission, Daf Hey, Stam Nazirus, right? An unspecified Nazirus. How long it is. So it's 30 days. Here also it's unspecified. It says a big one, a small one. It doesn't tell you exactly how long it is. So a small one could be 2 months. It could be a year. A big one could be 5 years. Nonetheless, even if he says from now to the end of the world, we'll explain why in the Gemara that's not called a Nazir Olam. We know there's a concept of Nazir Olam for the rest of your life. In these cases, there's no such thing as Nazir less than 30 days. So there's at least 30 days, and that's it, 30 days. We'll explain this Mishnah more, Ian with Ben Sion. The Gemara says, Amai. Now the Gemara is asking the last case in the Mishnah. He says, Nazir Atzof Olam. Hami Kan Atzof Olam Kamar. It should be at least a Nazir Olam, like a Nazir for the rest of his life. And according to the Psak Halacha, he's Megaleach, right? Once every 12 months. Hachi Kamar. This is what he meant to say. I'm taking Nazirus. He's not saying I'm taking Nazirus from now until the end of the world. The Nazirus is going to be, in my eyes, as long. It's hard to take a Nazirus upon yourself. It's going to be. He only meant 30 days. It's going to be hard for me, like I'm taking Nazirus from now until the end of the world. It's not. The Mishnah says, "Areini Nazir mikan ad makom ploni." This is a Mishnah where. Let's see where the Mishnah is. Look, I'm on Daf Ches. Tomorrow's Daf. Okay. Harini Nazir Mikan and Malcolm Ploni. I'm taking Nazir from here until I get to this place. You see how long the average person would take to get from here, from New York to Los Angeles, let's say. Now, I don't know if it counts a flight because it would only be 6 hours. Mikan and Malcolm Ploni. If it's less than 30 days, another shloshim yom, right? We mentioned you can't have a Nazir that's less than 30 days. If not, he's a Nazir for the amount of days that it takes. Say it takes 45 days, 6 months. When we say explanation of that Mishnah on Daf Ches, right? He's saying the Nazir is long for me. It's a long journey, right? Like getting from here to there. But he only made 30 days. I'm a Rabba. Now the Mishnah is talking about he started traveling already. When he started traveling, he says in Nazirus, from the time now until I get to this place, obviously he meant the amount of days it takes to travel to that place. Levi called parsa of parsa. Why are you measuring in terms of days? Measuring in terms of parsa. That's the way you measure travel according to Judaism. Parsa is about 4 mil or 4 kilometers. Some places where they don't count kilometers, they don't count miles. They go by days. V'laheve kol uvno v'uvno. Why are we concerned about the days it takes? Let's talk about the days of the places where he stays lodging, the different hotels that he stays at, right? Sometimes a person will stay at a hotel for 2 or 3 days, right? So even though the journey would take him 2 months, maybe the amount of places he stays at is only 30 places, right? That's a quantifiable way of figuring out how long the journey is. Milos nan. Then we have a Mishnah. Hareini Nazir ka'afar haaretz u'kasarosh k'cholayam. Hareze Nazir olam galech echad l'shloshim yom. So really the question by the place is, instead of saying the amount of days, say forget about the amount of days. We're not quantifying it based on the amount of days. We're quantifying it on his journey. He's saying a Nazir is like my journey. So the journey usually assesses journey based on how many places, hotels he's gonna lodge at. So every hotel on his way, he's considering a Nazir of 30 days, like he says. If he's in the Mishnah on Daf Ches, so tomorrow he's a Nazir like the dust of the earth, or the amount of hairs that I have in my head. A lot of hairs in your head. Try counting it. cholayam, or the sand on the beach, right? It's impossible to quantify these things. There's a huge amount. So, Harezi Nazir Olam, it's not the Nazir Olam we were talking about before, where you're a Nazir for the rest of your life. You're not taking Naziris for the rest of your life. You're taking a Naziris, 30-day Naziris for every piece of hair, 30-day Naziris for every piece of dust on the earth, every particle of sand. So, it's an inestimable amount of, pieces of sand. So, therefore, it's 30 days, a bunch of, an infinite amount of 30-day periods in the year. That's why, even though Nazir Olam is Megaleach, we hold he's only Megaleach once every 12 months. Here, he would be Megaleach every 30 days. Because every 30 days, the Naziris is over. And then he has to start another Nazir. It's like if I took 2 Naziris by myself, right? The first 30-day Naziris is finished. I bring the Korbanos, I shave my head. I observe another 30-day Naziris. So here also, why are we gauging it based on the amount of days? Let's gauge it based on the amount of hotel lodgings. And therefore, every hotel lodging, another 30 days. So the Gemara says, "Kol milsa de ispe kitzusa lo gasani." That Mishnah was talking about things where it's impossible to count how many, pieces of dust there are on the earth, how many pieces of sand there are on the shore. It's impossible to count. So therefore, we say every piece of sand is another 30-day Naziris, and it goes on forever, right? However, here it's possible to count the amount of lodgings. So therefore, and it's also impossible to count the days. So therefore, we go with something that's usually quantifiable, and we go with the days. Tanya, a proof to this, already Nazir Kol Yimei Chayai. He says, I'm Nazir for my entire life. Already Nazir Olam. Like we saw, the classical Nazir Olam is Nazir for the rest of his life. Already Nazir Olam, already Nazir Kol Yam. I already Nazir Olam. Already Nazir Olam. He says, I'm Nazir for my entire life, or I'm a Nazir forever. So already Nazir Olam, he's a Nazir Olam. Afilu me'ah shana, afilu elef shanim, ein ze nazir olam, el nazir le'olam. He says, I'm a nazir for 100 years, or for 1,000 years, even though people don't live 1,000 years. Right? Because he didn't say for my life, my lifetime, so he's a nazir le'olam, meaning he accepted upon himself 30-day nazirus to renew itself every 30 days, and therefore, like we mentioned before, he's a nazir le'olam, every 30 days is megaleach, and then he observes the next nazirus for 1,000 years. Rabba Amar. So that's proof, right, that if it has kitzusa, if it has something which is definitive, right? So I'm sorry. Let me go back for a second. If he says 100 years or 1,000 years, so that's not like the Mishnah, which talks about the hairs on your head or the dust of the earth, which is inestimable. But this you could count. So since you could count this, so you are a Nazir la'olam, you have a Nazirus la'olam, meaning you have a period of Nazirus for 100 years or 1,000 years, in which case it's more machmir, because if you're a Nazir olam, we said you can shave your head every 12 months, but if you say for 100 years, 1,000 years, right? You technically could live 1,000 years, possible. So therefore, you have a Naziris for 1,000 years, and that's definitive. We don't say you're a Naziris every 30 days for the rest for 100 years, if you are definitive, right? Just like you say, in the amount of days I'm traveling, also, 1,000-year Naziris, you're 1,000 years. Naziris for a period of 1,000 years. This is more machmir than a Nazir olam. You can't shave even in 12 months. That's what I believe. Rabba Amar, Rabba is a different answer. Shiny saros ho muvdola zumazu, right? Your hairs are distinct from each other, and therefore, also, the sand, you can take a particle of sand, it's distinct from the next particle of sand, which is not true when it comes to traveling, right? They're not really, it's just one continuum, right? It's not one day and then plus 1 day. It's 1 day and the second day, right? They're a unit of time. The Gemara says, right? There's between the day, the daytime, the nighttime divides. So really it is 1 day and then another day. So also you should add it up. Really, the first day is not distinct from the second day. All the pasuk is saying that combining the night and the day, you have 1 day, and then you start the next day immediately. So it's a continuum, So you count 1 plus 1. It's not separate days. It's just a continuum of counting 1 and then 2 and 3. They're not distinct from each other. Rav Amar, and that's why you count the amount of days. Rav Amar, he goes back to the original question, right? Originally we said, the Mishnah says, I'm a Nazir mikan vad sofa olam. The original question, the Gemara says, right? You're a Nazir for 30 days. Why do we say, right, you're a Nazir olam in that case? We misread the Mishnah according to Rava, right? The Mishnah says, Amar Harini Nazir Achas Gdol, Harini Nazir Achas Ktana, right? He says one Nazirus, a big Nazirus, a small Nazirus. I feel mikan ad sofa olam Nazir shalosh yom. We misread the Mishnah. When the last clause of the Mishnah, I feel mikan ad sofa olam. He says Harini Nazir Achas mikan ad sofa olam. Since he said the word Achas, so therefore we know a stam Nazirus, a regular Nazirus is 30 days. He said one Nazirus. So therefore, we assume that he meant to say one regular period of years, which is 30 days. That's not Kazari Harini Nazir Achas, right? The beginning said Achas. We have to insert the word Achas into the last clause in the Mishnah as well. The Mishnah says Harini Nazir V'yom Echad. I'm a Nazir and one day. Harini Nazir V'sha'a Achas. I'm a Nazir, right? Harini Nazir Stam Nazir is 30 days, and another day. Harini Nazir V'sha'a Achas. I'm a Nazir, 1 30-day period, and 1 hour. Harini Nazir Achas U'mechsa. I'm take 1 Nazirus and a half a Nazirus, Harezi Nazir Shtaim. In any of these cases, he has 2 30-day periods of Nazirus that he took upon himself. Why do you have to tell me all these things, right? Obviously, right, the reason is because Haredi Nazir, he says 1 full Nazirus, and he says Yom Echad, and we learned you can't have a Nazirus less than 30 days. So when he says Yom Echad, right, he meant to accept another set of Nazirus, another 30-day Nazirus upon himself. Same thing with 1 hour, and same thing with 1.5. Why do you need all these cases? The Itana Harini Nazir v'yom echad. Haka udamrin in Nazir v'yom echad. You can't have Nazir for 1 day. Amatu lahaki kamani tartit. And that's why we give him 2 Naziros. Aval 2 30-day periods of Naziros. Aval Harini Nazir v'sha'achas limni shloshim ve'echad yom. Right, 1 day is 1/30 of a Naziros. Normally you measure a Naziros as 30 days, a month. So the way of calculating a month is by days, but you don't usually calculate months by hours. So when he said 1 Naziros at an hour, really he meant to say 30 full days and 1 plus 1 hour Naziros together. He meant to say it together. So therefore it's 31st day, right? It's mixes a Yom Kikula. So 31 days in Naziros. Kamashma, no, we do calculate the hours. We say Harini Nazir is a 30-day period. And you're adding on, even Sha'achas, we do calculate that as a totally new 30-day period. Top of Zainam and Beis, V'itana Sha'achas, if we just said the second case in the Mishnah, Mishum L'nachis L'davka. Because he wasn't specific. He's not telling you how much of the Naziros, right? Aval Me'achas or Mechsa, right? He says 1.5. Sounds like a 45-day Naziros. Emalo. You shouldn't count 2 30-day periods of Naziros. Kamashmulan Kulu Nazir Shayim. All the cases is 2 30-day periods of Naziros, right? Specifically because the way he phrased his language, he says Harini Nazir Achas Umechsa, right, with the vav Umechsa. So he took Nazir's Achas, which is 30-day period. We cut it off at that point. Umechsa and a half a Naziros. There's no such thing as a half a Naziros. You can't have 15 Naziros. So that 15-day Naziros becomes a second period of a 30-day Naziros. Then it just says, Harini Nazir Shloshim Yom Visha Achas. Now here, he doesn't say Harini Nazir Achas, I'm Nazir 1 30-day period. He tells you how long. Shloshim Yom Visha Achas, 30 full days and 1 plus 1 hour. Nazir Shloshim Ve'echad Yom. Or he says it in one phrase, 31 days. Shah Achas, Nazir Shloshim Ve'echad Yom. In that case, only one case in the Mishnah, he says, I'm a Nazir for 30 days plus 1 hour, right? So he says 30 days plus 1 hour. So that is only one Nazir for 31 days. Shein Nazir is a show. It's not just a thing as being a Nazir for an hour of a day. You have to be a Nazir if you're Nazir for an hour of a day, you're a Nazir for the entire day. I'm a Rav. Right? It's only because he says I'm Nazir for Shloshim 30 days and an hour. Or if you would say 31 days, right? Aval Amar Shloshim Yom V'Yom Echad. If he said he put another word in there, Shloshim 30 days V'Yom Echad, right? and another day, right? Nazir Shtayim. Then we consider that to be acceptance of two separate Naziros. Shloshim Yom is one period of Naziros. Yom Echad is the second period of Naziros. Again, you can't have Naziros less than 30 days. So therefore, you have two 30-day Naziros. Rav Savarla, Rav holds Rabbi Akiva, the Darish Lishnei Yisera. He's very exacting in the way you phrase your terminology. This nan, where do we find a proof for Rabbi Akiva? Loes habor veloes hadus. This is a Mishnah in Maseches Baba Basra. If you sell someone a house, your house, right? You don't mean to sell the well in your house or the cistern on your house. Cistern is just basically a well that's above ground. Even though he wrote, "I'm selling you my house," all the depth and all the height of my house, he didn't include that. V'sarich likach lo derech divrei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds, right? Even though I didn't sell the well in my house and the cistern in my house, right? I sold everything else on the property, and if I want to be able to get to my well or cistern and have a path to get there, I sold that path. I have to buy it back from the person I sold to. Chacham say no. If you were Messiah, we assume that you didn't want to sell your well and your cistern. Obviously, you also didn't want to sell a path to get there. Rabbi Akiva says you have to buy back a path. He said, I'm selling you my house except for the well and the cistern. So therefore you see, by it changes the ramifications of your deal. And when you say chutz me'el, except the well and the cistern, he meant to include, he's also not selling a path to be able to get to his well and the cistern. So therefore, by adding the word chutz me'elu, it's significant. So here also in our Mishnah, by saying shloshim yom, he says 30 days, ve yom echad, and another day. So that's different than saying shloshim echad yom, 31 days. That is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who Rav follows. That's a conclusion of today's shir. Stay tuned for Iyun with Ben Sion, where we talk about this concept. You can't have an Naziris less than 30 days. Why not? Why can't you have an Naziris for 7 days? Right? This is clear from the Mishnah, clear from the whole Gemara. Right? Once I say even 1 hour, right? I'm an Naziris 30 days, right? We had a Mishnah that face Tam Nazir Shloshim Yom. When we're not sure what you meant, we take 30 days. But why, if I say I'm a Nazir for 7 days, why can't that work? We'll talk about that at Iyun with Ben Sion coming up next.